のロゴを作成する方法を学びましょう。
Okay guys, so the first thing we need to do looking at our reference image here, we need to make a square. So go over to your toolbox and select the create rectangles and squares tool. That's this little guy over here. So to draw a perfect square, you hold down your control key and drag. The next thing we'll do here is to apply a rounding, as we can see on our reference. So we're just going to adjust this horizontal radius over here. So you'll get to see this if you are in your create rectangles tool. So to adjust it, just move these dials up. So we've got the horizontal radius and the vertical radius. We're just going to adjust this horizontal one. So that looks about right. For our next step, we're going to duplicate this and we'll also change it into a shape. So press Ctrl D to duplicate. Now to change it into a shape, you go into your path menu and select this first option that says object to path. Now before we do anything, we're going to duplicate this square again in its current state. So press Ctrl D. Now go into your edit paths tool. That's this tool after the transform tool. We're going to delete these three nodes. And then afterwards we're going to straighten the line by selecting these two nodes. So I'll show you that. So to select these three, just go ahead and drag over them. Press delete. Now by holding down the shift key, go ahead and select these two nodes. And choose this option on your line options. So you've got options to make a curve or have a symmetric node. We're just going to make it a straight line segment. So that's looking good. Now we're going to do the same to our duplicate, but this time in the opposite direction. So go ahead and click on it first. This time we're going to delete the bottom nodes. So you go ahead and drag over them and just press delete. Holding down our shift key, we can select these two nodes. And then our straight line segment. There. Now just to make sure we have two squares here, we're just going to give them some random colors. So using our transform tool, click on one of the squares and give them any color you want. And go do the same for the next one. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to apply gradients to these two shapes. So by first clicking on the blue shape, go over to your fill tab. If you don't see it in the moment, just go ahead and press Shift Ctrl F and you get this dialog. So we're going to give it a linear gradient. So that's this box over here. Now we need to adjust the angle of this gradient. We need it to go something like a 45-degree angle that's going down that way. So we can do that by adjusting these nodes. And the next thing we'll do is to give it a color. So we can see from our reference, it starts off as a blue and then fades into a purple and then goes all the way into something like a pink. So we'll try and do that here. So for our blue color, we need something a bit light. So in these tabs here, you've got your RGB, you've got your hue, saturation and lightness, and your CMYK. You have to go for this HSL. That's the one you use. So just going to adjust this blue, try to get it a bit like our reference. That looks about right. and then we're going to give it a purple. So we're going to click this node over here, and then we'll adjust these sliders and get that purple going. So at the moment it seems to be white. That's because we have an alpha channel. So that's the alpha here. So we need to get rid of that just by sliding this all the way up. There you go. So go back to adjusting our color. That looks about right. Now I think we need to be a bit more closer to getting a purple going down here. I think we need to add some more. So to add another color in between this gradient, you choose which node you want to start from. So I'll start from this one, the top one, and then we go into our gradient tool. That's that tool over there on my left hand side. So when you click on it, you get the options of adding a node to it. So this is how you add it's called a stop. I'm calling it a node. It's a stop. So this is how you add it. You either press the plus or the minus to take it off, the plus to add it. So if I just click it once, there we have another stop added. So I'm just going to choose a different color for that. I'll change it to a pink purple sort of color. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Yeah. Now that this square is complete, it's got its own gradient, we go ahead and do the same for the second square. It's now a half square. Now for this one, I'll try and get this purple, but this time it'll move into an orange. So we'll go ahead into our linear gradient, move the start node all the way down there, 45-degree angle. By clicking on it, on this node, then pressing D, we're going to sample this purple. So I've pressed D, sample that. That's looking good. Going back into my transform tool, move that a little bit. I'm going to add a stop here and try and get a bit of red going, then fading into an orange. So going back into my gradient tool, I can add another stop. Now I'm going to choose this orange and make sure you drag the slider all the way up so that you don't have any transparency. So go ahead and change that to an orange. That's okay. Then for my end node, let's get rid of the alpha, and I'll change that to a yellow, which is a bit light, really light, almost white. Yep, that looks okay. Now go back into our transform tool. I'm just going to get rid of these outlines. So this whole line is going to go away. So by holding down the shift key, I'm going to select both these squares. And then going into my color palette, I'll hold down the shift key and click this box with an X on it. That gets rid of the outline. Don't worry about this other outline which is showing. That's from our previous square. So we can always just move these to the side. So by holding down shift, I'm going to click both of them and just move them over to the side. Now the next thing we need to do is just let me bring this reference over. The next thing we'll do is to blend these colors so that it doesn't show this gap which is in between and all these other tonal gradations. So the first thing I'll do is to group these, and then I'll apply a blur to them. So hold down your shift key and click both of them and press Ctrl G to group them. You can also use this little icon here which says group selected objects, but I just use the shortcut Control G. So while it's still selected, we go into filters, blurs, and then choose the blur option. So adjust your horizontal blur to something like 40 and your vertical blur to something like 60. Make sure you have these two options ticked, the blur content only and the live preview, so that you can see the changes. So it seems to have blended everything quite fine, but we have this little gap here. I'll show you how to get rid of that in a minute. So click the apply option. Now to get rid of this little white line, you just go ahead and press, just duplicate this whole shape. Duplicate it a number of times, maybe 3 times, until you don't see it. There you go. And drag over the whole thing and press Ctrl G so that we have just one thing going. That's looking good. So for our next step, we're going to create this this camera icon. So we'll make use of our previous square here. We'll just add a bit more thickness to it and then maybe a bit more rounding to it. And we'll also change the color to white. So move it on top of our current square here with the nice colors. Press the home key to bring it right to the front. Now we're going to resize it first by holding down the control key and dragging these handles. Try to move it on top. We'll align it later. For now we just need to change a few more things. I think we'll add more rounding to it. So go back into your create rectangles tool and just increase the rounding. Now the next thing we'll do is to give it a greater width for the outline. So go over into your fill and stroke tab. So that's this here. You can press Shift Control F if you don't see it. So we'll change it to something like 25 pixels. Let's see what happens. That looks good. We'll just lower it a bit more. Yeah, that's okay. So the next thing we can do is to give it an outline color, a white color. So by holding down the Shift key, go ahead and select whichever color you want. In this case, I suppose it has to be white. There. I think that looks good. Maybe we'll add more thickness to it. I think it's too thin right now. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, and our next step is to draw this circle and that little circle. So to draw a circle, you go into this tool, it says create circles and ellipses. Holding down the control key, you get a perfect circle. We'll give it the same thickness that we gave our outer square. So just go ahead and press, what was this thickness? 25.5. We'll do the same for this. 25.5 pixels. And then we change the color to white by holding down our Shift key. There we go. Now we're going to align the circle and the square. So hold down your Shift key and click on both of them individually and press Shift Control A to bring out the alignment tools, or you can press this little icon. We'll align them on the horizontal axis and on the vertical axis, just like that. And we'll go ahead and just group them first before we do anything. So just drag over them, press Ctrl G. Now we'll also align them to this outer square, the first one we made. So by pressing the Shift key, since these are already grouped, we can select we can pretty much drag on top of all of them and just use the vertical alignment and the horizontal alignment. Let's place them right in the middle. Now the last thing we just going to draw is this little circle. So just go over into a create circles tool, hold down the control key, drag, and this time we're not going to give it an outline, but we'll give it a fill. So to do that, you just click any color you want, in this case the white. And to get rid of the outline, hold down your shift key and click this little box here, and we'll just move it in place. Oh, click the wrong thing. Somewhere about there. That looks okay. I think that completes our Instagram logo. So just to finish off, I'm going to drag over everything and press Ctrl G so that it's all one thing, all grouped. And that completes it. So I'll make sure to make this file available for you for your download, and you can ungroup it and see it for yourself, see what you like, see what you don't like. Please make sure to comment in the comment section, and please subscribe.